What's up, wrestling fans? Richard Boudreau here. Welcome to a brand new edition of Kayfabe Kickout Audio for January the 19th, 2013 for KayfabeKickout.com, putting the pro back in pro wrestling. On today's show, I have the immense pleasure to speak with former WCW and ECW superstar Scotty Riggs. Fantastic guy in this great interview. We talked about a ton of different things. Talked about his time in WCW, what it was like working in Memphis Wrestling with Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett, his thoughts on Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and so much more. So definitely check out this interview, folks. You won't regret it. Joining me today is former WCW and ECW superstar Scotty Riggs. Scotty, how are you?
Doing very good, Richard. Doing very good.
Good. That's fantastic to hear. Like I said, just wanted to thank you for being on the show today. And in our first interview that we did in September, you had talked about your numerous ailments that you had, like you had issues with your gallbladder and your elbow surgery and whatnot. Just wanted to know how you're doing now.
Most of the health is getting a lot better. I mean, it's I've been doing a lot of DDP yoga, which is helping strengthening my body and helping my just my health and everything get better. I've still got a few ailments. I'm getting older and just being busted up for so long, but it's it's still a journey. So it's good though.
That's great. That's really good to hear. So how do you find DDP yoga? Do you find it challenging?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, it's one of those things that even when I talked to H about it, and when he first started doing regular yoga, that he started back against me 10 plus years ago when he had some injuries. It was the last thing he thought he saw himself doing, and that's why he kind of created DDP yoga, where it has resistance to it, where it has push and pull of regular exercise, but with no weights. So you get the resistance, your muscles get to work, but it's not like a heavy session on your joints and stuff like that. So a lot of guys I know that do it, from Jericho to Dustin Rhodes, Zack Ryder. There's so many guys, Ziggler, that are doing it now, that just are gaining a lot more healing, which is the toughest thing when you're on the road so much and you got to work out and you got to work out hard. So you're constantly turning your body down. So when you're doing the DDP yoga and you're on the road, you're doing things, you're actually helping your body heal quicker. So, and plus you can do it anywhere. You don't have to go to a gym. You can do it in your hotel room. You can do it in the arena. You can do it almost anywhere that that you got 30 minutes to get your body loosened up, warmed up, and everything else, and it keeps you from getting more injuries where you're actually in the ring. So I wish I would have developed this a lot longer ago. Probably allow us to have less injuries and longer lasting careers.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I do DDP yoga myself, and I don't think that anybody can ever try to sue Dallas Page for false advertising, because it is, DDP yoga is intense, and it definitely ain't your mom's yoga. Do you do anything else? Any other sort of exercises?
Just regular basic stuff. I can't really lift like I used to with my elbow and things like that. But mainly stick with the yoga and do a lot of stretching and get some light workout routine in.
Right. Well, that's great to hear that you're doing well. And you would mention that you're 41 years old, but you're certainly, in your physique and your looks, you certainly don't look like it. So.
It's like sometimes you feel like you're 61, you act like you're 21, but you're always somewhere right in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm 34, and some days, I'm full of piss and vinegar, and some days, like, I can barely, I can barely get out of bed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some days you get up out of bed, some days you got to roll out of bed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember, when I was, in my 20s, I was in the military, and like I had like literally balls of steel, and I thought I could take on the world. But now that I'm a hell of a lot older, I gotta be careful with what I do. So.
Oh yeah, when I was in college, we built these lofts in our dorm room. You're 18, 19, 20 years old. I'm playing college football, and you go through practice. This is before I had all the rules of all the easier hitting, easier practices. You're only allowed so much of this, so much of that. We used to kill each other 3-4 days a week. Then you got one day off, then you got a game, then you got I look at it and go, if I try to do that now, there's no way on God's green earth I'd be able to roll out of a loft without falling and killing myself.
Exactly.
When you're younger, you definitely have a lot more fluidity to your body.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like a lot of like young pro wrestlers, like a guy like Dolph Ziggler, he takes these like crazy bumps in the ring, a lot like Kurt Hennig did, and it's awesome now to see that kind of stuff. But then he's probably going to regret it when he's 35 or 40.
Well, every athlete goes through that in times. Every athlete thinks they're pretty much invincible because what they do is so hard. It's so not compared to what anybody else does, intensity-wise in their bodies, whether it's training, whether it's the actual sport you're playing, whether it's the mental part of traveling all the time, whatever you do, and then you barely get off seasons anymore. Like football, you still play 4 to 6 months out of the year, and the other 6 months they were either doing selling insurance or real estate or something of that sort. They had secondary jobs because their sport was not their main job, but they still beat themselves up so much.
Right.
Now, in wrestling, especially a lot of guys, the way it changed in the 90s when we all started getting guaranteed contracts, that gave you some stability so you didn't have to have a secondary job or even a third job to make things work if you're married so your wife didn't have to work. So it definitely, changed, in just being able to live that lifestyle and be that athlete the whole time. And, and being full-time athlete means you're beating your body up full-time.
Right.
And it definitely creates a different lifestyle for you.
Right. Yeah. No. That's very true. You had mentioned that like other professional athletes have like an off season. Do you think that pro wrestlers like should get like 3 or 4 months off, like go be rotated around?
Not really. I mean, I think it's the one sport that really it doesn't need obviously, because otherwise, if you have an off season, you would lose touch. With a lot of your fan base, you would lose touch with a lot of what's going on because it's a TV show about wrestling. But unfortunately now, let me take that back. It used to be a wrestling show that's on TV. Now it's a TV show about wrestling.
Yes.
And so it is a difference. Wrestling just used to be on TV, and you watch it, and you get sucked into it, and you fall into the drama of good versus bad. Now it's just this TV show that happens to be about wrestling. You follow, and every one of them are superstars. Every one of them are whatevers and characters and personas, and whether they're realistic or not, everybody's playing a role now. And that's where it's lost all its credibility. So to take time off would mean people would lose their credibility in fans' eyes. So they really can't do that. WWE, they realize that the market has changed so much in the U.S. to where they can't survive alone just on the U.S. market like it used to be. And if you look at it, the ratings we used to draw when WCW was against WWE, we were both running 3.7s, 3.8s, which if you put you say it's about 5 million people watching each show each night. So you had 10 million people watching Raw and Nitro on Monday night. Nowadays, they're doing maybe 2.7s, 2.8s, maybe closer to 3.
Right.
Which means they probably lost 60% of their viewing audience.
Right.
And, Impact Wrestling has gained maybe 1 million plus followers. They've gained some of that back. They don't want to follow WWE all the time. But it's just drastically changed. And UFC, because of the realism of it, has actually guarded a lot of the viewers that WWE has lost.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
if you took people off air right now, you would definitely lose steam in everything you're doing. And WWE has to go overseas, so they actually have a harder schedule now than they ever had before, just to keep the company afloat. So, their wrestlers need to be taken a lot better taken care of. Actually, they're superstars. They're not wrestlers. There's a lot of these guys they call wrestlers.
Right. Well, that's you brought up a lot of very good points because there's been a lot of talk that wrestlers should be rotated throughout, and there should wrestlers should be unionized. But from what you're saying, you're right. Like if a wrestler goes off the air for a few months, he's people forget about him. So I think that maybe there could be something done in terms of not doing as much high risk stuff, like for a specific wrestler, like a guy like Dolph Ziggler.
When it used to be wrestling, as wrestling per se, it used to be match of grappling, match of whole versus whole, the psychology. Now it's a bunch of moves together that have no, you can hit a guy with a chair 10 times, he gets up and pins you with a small package. That's their psychology today. They want everything to be a car wreck with a simplistic ending. And before it was like everything building up to that huge crescendo of an ending of a match. It used to be very small, very simple, very small version of a big ending, which makes people go, wow, did you see that? Now it's like, oh my gosh, that's all? So it's flip-flop because they can't do as much anymore, even though they try to. And that's what's made it hard for a wrestling fan to follow it. They have the microwave mentality. They want to see the big entrance of the pyro, and they want to see the end. They don't care about the middle. The wrestling fan doesn't. So the wrestler has to do all this dramatic and crazy stuff to make the middle seem more enticing to keep the fans with it.
Right.
If that makes sense. There's some guys, like when CM Punk was working Jericho, they could work a good, solid wrestling match from point A to point Z, from beginning to end, and people will be with it the whole time. But if you would see anybody else try to do that, you can list anybody else on that roster right now that would try to do that, they couldn't do it because they don't know how to do the psychology of it. And it's unfortunate because they still have some of the best talent in the world, that company. But if you look like a Bobby Roode can work with Austin Aries, or Bobby Roode can work with a James Storm, and RVD can work with every one of them can work a match where everything in the match means something. It's because they're doing wrestling, they're not doing a TV show.
Right. Yeah, I know you.
I made a bunch of little different points there, but does that make sense?
Yeah, no. Like everything that you're saying, is definitely, definitely makes sense. And I think, especially the WWE, they have to do these type of matches now, like you said, where it has to be, it goes from 0 to 60. There's no like in-ring psychology anymore. And I think that's a sad commentary.
Well, it's what Vince wants. Unfortunately, that's why he's lost a lot of TV viewers. Vince is the one who's got the say-so in everything, whether it's the first match, the first interview, whatever, he's got the final say-so on it. No matter what anybody writes, he's got what he wants. He wants to be entertainment. That's why he's tried to do bodybuilding way back when with the WWF. That
Yes.
didn't work. He tried to do the XFL with football. That didn't work. He tried to do music. He does some of that still. It's keeping itself afloat. He's trying to do the movies now. Now the movies are really worth a darn. And he's trying to get all his wrestlers in the movies and stuff to build more credibility to them as quote-unquote superstars. But he's not really doing anything for wrestling because Vince almost seems to be, wrestling is what makes him, but he doesn't want to be a part of wrestling, it seems like to me. Otherwise, he put full focus in wrestling and he'd bring droves of fans back if he really put his focus in it.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Vince, like each passing day, Vince seems like he wants to steer clear from pro wrestling and just call it sports entertainment.
Well, even years ago when Turner first got in, when he first bought WCW, and Vince had been on TPS before, even when Turner didn't want him on there. Turner called up Vince and said, "Hey, I'm in the pro wrestling game now, and this is a real conversation." Turner called up Vince and said, "I'm in the pro wrestling now," and Vince said, "Well, that's nice. I'm in the entertainment business."
Mm-hmm.
Now it's back in the late '80s.
Right.
So Vince has never changed. He's just used what he had to make a vehicle to kind of make himself, credible when it comes to stock options. Everything else now more of a business instead of a sport. So, it's changed. Some of it's changed for the better. Some of it's changed for the worse. And you just got to take it for what it's worth now.
Yeah, absolutely. You just have to watch it, and if you want to watch it, great, and if you don't want to watch it, then you just tune out.
And you
So
don't, yeah. That's the thing, you know. He's not really trying to. He hasn't garnered any new fans. You know, he's lost more old ones, it seems like, and he's not really doing a whole lot to garner new fans except through merchandise. You know, he's not doing anything to make you really love somebody or really hate somebody. The wrestlers themselves are doing that, so you gotta give them props. When it comes down to the product they're actually putting out there, it doesn't really, they're hot shot and everything. Like with The Rock coming in now for the Royal Rumble and the WrestleMania and stuff. He's coming in for some big stuff, and it's good. It's going to bring mainstream publicity to it, but it's only for a couple times a year. And yeah, that hot shot to everything, but what do you do for the next 9 months? Go back to your, you know, to your B product. The Rock's the A product, no doubt about it. And now you got to go back to your B product, and he doesn't really build anything. He's not bringing any new people in. He's not building the next, you know, John Cena, or the next Rock, or the next Triple H. He's not doing anything to build that next star. He's just kind of coasting along and waiting to see what happens, to see who catches fire.
yeah, that's really interesting, and I think I think Vince, to a certain degree, he's probably reached that point where he's just saying fuck it, like I'm not going to put a whole lot of effort into this anymore.
Well, he's getting older, and in one sense, he's like, I think he's close to his 70s. So, you know, he's to a point where, you know, he knows he's going to be done with it, and that's why he's passing on Triple H. And Triple H is one of the best actual minds in the business. You know, he definitely has a passion for wrestling. It's just he's going to be able to take it over now and actually see what he can do to keep the company keep existing. You know, it's going to be a big change, and Vince is finally out of it. You know, it's gonna be weird to see really what they do and how well they perform. Because Vince he's been the he's been the missing link of the whole thing. He's been the one who's kept everything afloat. He's been the rock of it. So it's just gonna be interesting to see the next decade where wrestling can be and what it's going to be. You know, is TNA going to really take over because it's more UFC style? With more of a good guy versus bad guy, fight versus fight, you know, like it used to be, where people can actually believe some of it, or it's going to be the Muppets with, you know, all the other celebrities on there trying to garner that, you know, where it's all PG and it's all hunky-dory and nice, and we know everybody likes everybody, no one really hates anybody, but we're all just actors, you know, that's what Vince puts over, we're all just actors. We're all really nice guys. You know, it's like when I wrestled, they didn't have bad guys doing autograph sessions. They only had really good guys. You
Right.
know, when me and Marcus were the American Males, and we were the only good guy tag team around, they had us doing every meet and greet, every autograph session, every radio station, everything you can think of, the plug events, because we were two young, good-looking guys that people could adhere to. They didn't have nasty boys who were out there doing stuff. They didn't have Harlem Heat. They didn't have Dick Slater and Buckhouse Punk or any of those guys go out there who are your legit bad guys. Because people didn't want to see them. They wanted to boo them. Now you got, you know, Dolph Ziggler, who is trying to be a bad guy, but they got him out there signing autographs for everybody. CM Punk, who everyone really loves to hate right now, they got him out there doing all these Comic-Con stuff. And it's something he wants to do too. But again, it's making people like him but not hate him. Yeah, it's great for merchandise sales, but what's it do to really make people want to buy to see him wrestle? You know, they want to see, people still want to see the white hat versus the black hat.
Right.
They want to see the good versus the bad.
Right.
They want to see good triumph in the end. You know, and I mean, that was one of the things that when I wrestled Barry Windham a bunch for Dusty Rhodes in his WCW promotion, Barry taught me a lot because I was a bad guy. And Barry taught me if you're going to be a bad champion, this is what you're going to do. And he really, really spent 9 months we wrestled each other every time we were in the ring teaching me stuff. And there were a couple of occasions that Dusty came up to me and said, hey, we want to go out there and sign autographs after a show. And I told Dusty the first time, I said, dude, I'm your champion, right? He's like, yeah. I'm a bad guy. Is it going to sell tickets for me to go out there and sign autographs to these
No, you're right about that.
And all this is kind of off the wall psychology, but it's it's just the validity of it. And people don't if they like the guy, they're not going to want to see him get his butt kicked. But that's what they're trying to make you think on when you watch him on TV. He's supposed to be a bad guy. But man, I just met him last week, and he's really the nicest guy in the world. How can I hate him? You can't.
No,
So you confuse your fans. So they they don't get into it. They don't buy into it. They don't buy your product. There's no business when nothing's being bought.
Yeah, that's that's for sure. I mean, back in your days when you wrestled, and back in even before that, the kayfabe was alive and well. You'd have heels, driving in one car, and the baby faces driving in another, in separate dressing rooms, and.
Oh yeah, when I wrestled in USWA back in '95, I was there for 8 months. One of the towns, Nashville, the arena there. The good guys are on one side of the arena, the bad guys on the other side, and there was no way of getting between to talk. If you needed to do that, so you had to travel up there as bad guys, travel up there as good guys, get in the ring and do everything in the ring. And you were there in Nashville every Saturday night. And did the same way in Memphis, same way in Louisville, same way in Evansville. Everything was separate. And that's why that territory was so strong and made so much money and made so many stars for so long, was because guys there knew how to work. They didn't have to have all these rehearsals and have to do all this practice and stuff that we do nowadays. They have to do all these takes. Everything was one take and done. And you either did it with credibility or they just didn't buy you.
Right.
You learned that you had to do it with credibility. And that's just the nature of the business. Nowadays, again, it's a TV show about wrestling. It's not wrestling on TV anymore.
No, that's for damn sure. So what were the fans like in Memphis? Because I've seen the matches with Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. Loser leaves town, and the fans of Memphis seemed so passionate. What were they like when you wrestled there?
Oh, they were definitely crazy. They had the mentality of everything that we were doing. They suspended their disbelief. They had their doubts. They had everything that was out there being said about wrestling, whatever. But because it was such a small territory, and they were seen every week. Like I said, Saturday morning was Memphis TV. Saturday night was Nashville. Monday was back in Memphis. Tuesday was Louisville. Wednesday was Indiana. Thursday and Friday was Town, either Mississippi or Missouri or Arkansas somewhere. But they saw you in those same towns, and you had to be creative every week with what you were doing to draw the fans in. And you had to really rile up their emotions. And if you could do that, you were going to be successful. And that's what Jerry Lawler and a lot of guys that were there, Tommy Rich, like you said, Bill Dundee, some of the other guys that were there, Billy Jack Haynes, who came in there when last few months I was there, really, really taught everybody, you got to be believable. Whether you think they believe you or not, they might not believe wrestling is real, but you got to make sure they believe you are real. So, and I was a good guy there the whole time, and I had learned a lot of my selling technique from watching Ricky Steamboat. And so when people saw me get hit or get kicked or whatever, I made sure it was a real reaction. It wasn't some pantomime, crazy, over facial, whatever emotion. But cause if every shot looked like it killed you, then it wouldn't be believable that way.
Right.
So I had to, in my mind, pick and choose what's going to look real. And then when I fought back, I really had to fight back with a lot of piss and vinegar. And if you did that, you guarded the fans into what you were doing. They believed in you. And if you could do that, you were gonna make money. You were gonna sell tickets, whether you were first match to last match. You had to work with that mentality, because otherwise, in a small territory, you're going to starve. You're not going to make it. But that territory stayed there for so long in that same market, the same town, everywhere for a couple of decades, because the people believed what you were doing.
They
had people that would go from Louisville you knew that was happening, so you had to be, every match had to be something that was different in everything you did. So you didn't look like some carbon copy match done everywhere around the loop. Because then people start going, hey, they do the same thing everywhere. It could almost be the same style match, but not exactly move for move. And that's where you have to learn to listen to the fans. It's learning that psychology. You got to feel what the fans want. Fans want to see you get your butt kicked. You have to give it to them. They want to see you get that feel. You look at them, you read them, you get that feel that they want you to do something. And that's what the Memphis fans are so great. They taught you almost by making you better in reading what the fans want.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, like I said, the footage I've seen from Memphis, like the just some fantastic wrestling there, and you had commented that that's where you really learned how to wrestle. And in the short time you were there, you said that you were there for about 8 months before you went to the WCW. So.
Right, I started wrestling in '92, February 6th of '92 was my first match. And I pretty much for about the first year wrestled a little bit here, a little bit there, a couple nights a month, and everything sort of gradually getting bigger. Some of the guys I wrestled for would tell other competitors about me, and I would slowly start getting some exposure. And actually, I was wrestling in Rome, Georgia, and referee Randy Anderson, and I think Arn Anderson was there also. They come to watch the matches because they were from the area and they were in town. And I met Randy, and Randy was like, "Why haven't you come to WCW and tried some of your stuff?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm only a year in the business." He goes, "Good, dude, you got some talent." So basically what I did was I moved to Marietta and was just around there and would go to Lex and Sting's gym. And I met some of the guys. I met DDP, Steve Regal, Brad Armstrong, a couple of the other guys, and they were going from Marietta down to Jonesboro, the south side of Atlanta, to train at the power plant down there. And so a friend of mine had the karate school as a ring in it that's 15 minutes from here. Maybe we could go there and train. So what we did is I got them to come over to my friend's karate school. Actually, it helped me, but I was also helping them. They were training on stuff and didn't have to travel so far to do it. So DDP actually took me down to the power plant one day and we put a match together and did it for Jody Hamilton, who was in charge of the on-air talent. And to make a long story short, Jody got me booked on some TVs at WCW. And actually got Dusty to look at me and some of the other guys, Kevin Sullivan, who was a booker, Mike Graham was the booker then, and some of the other guys that were in talent then started giving me really good matches. I had like 8-9 minute matches with a guy like Steve Austin, who made me look like $1 million. Steve Regal, who had trained with me at the karate school, knew I had talent, so he gave me some, and I would have, instead of some guys getting beaten up in 2-3 minutes, I would have actual matches with guys. Even though I was losing, I was gaining credibility. And then finally, it was around '94. Actually, it was before Thanksgiving of '94. Arn Anderson came to the Mayor Center Stage and said, "Scotty, you got to get out of here." I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "There's going to be a shift in power here. Eric Bischoff's getting ready to kind of take over. Dusty Rhodes and the guys are losing their power." And he goes, "You're going to get trapped. Or you're going to get put under a bad ceiling because you're a great talent, you got great look, great ability, but you're not going to break through because then Eric's not going to beat you except in one way." I was like, wow, this is probably the best conversation I had with anybody. The best advice in my whole career came from Arn Anderson. I gave him major props for this. And he actually, taught me into an idea of trying to find somewhere else to go. Because about that time I was traveling with Jake Snake Roberts of some independence also. And we did a show in Warner Robins, and Jerry King Lawler was on there. And Jake had told Jerry about me. And Jerry watched my match, and Jerry went to me after the show and said, "Hey, I heard you're looking to get a chance to get some more experience and exposure." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I know you're doing some things with WCW. Would you be interested in coming to Memphis and wrestling in USWA for me there?" He goes, "I can't promise you anything, but I guarantee you can wrestle 5-6 nights a week, but you're only going to make $40 a night." see anything but that. But you gain experience, you gain exposure because you're working with a lot of different guys. You've been working a lot, and we're on TV, get magazine exposure. So basically, that was Thanksgiving. He goes, okay, first of the year you'll get a phone call from Randy Hale, who was the booker. No lie. January 1st, about 5 in the afternoon, I get a phone call. It was from Randy Hale saying, hey, we want you to start January 14th. I said, cool. So he gave me the dates, he gave me everything. I came in under, with 2 weeks of everything being booked. And it just went from there. And it went from being 2 weeks to 8 months. I didn't leave there until the third week of August. Is when I got my start date with WCW. So I spent 8 months there, traveling, wrestling. I mean, it was part of the greatest experience, but it also opened the door for me to be prepared when I went to WCW to be able to have great matches with guys, to be able to wrestle, to be able to, excuse me, to be able to call things in the ring, to be able to read a crowd. And one of the first matches I had back with me in Bagwell was against John Anderson, or not Aaron, but Steve Regal and Bobby Eaton when they were doing the Blue Bloods.
Right.
And that was basically our tryout matches in males against the Blue Bloods. And Bobby and Steve made me look like $1 million superstar. And everything did flow. Me and Bagwell had great chemistry, and so it just clicked. And so instead of being looked at under eyes of Bischoff, where I could only do one thing, he looked at me where under a different light. I was gone for 8 months. And I was perfecting my craft.
Right.
And that's what made me viable. So that's what gave me, from 95 until 2000, I was under contract with WCW. So they basically went out of business, and I went to ECW.
Right. So, getting back to WCW, like you said, you started in '95. Like, it wasn't until much later on that you were, the stable of the Flock was created with Raven. Whose idea was it to start the Flock? Was it Raven's? Was it Eric Bischoff? Like, was it your idea?
It wasn't really Raven's thing. He always had his, in a sense, his group around him. He started it in ECW, and when he came in, he brought Stevie Richards with him, and he was going to be like his real lackey to the thing. And so cliques were becoming the norm in wrestling then. You had your NWO, you had your Nation Domination, you had your DX, you had your little groups of who's, what clique you're kind of in. And and when Raven and me started our angle, we were going to do the thing where I got my eye injured. We were going to turn that into where I was going to become a Tommy Dreamer against Raven, but we decided because it was a real eye injury to use it to make me part of this Flock, because they brought Saturn in.
Right.
He brought Lodi in. Richards had left because of some things that happened with him, and Billy Kidman came in, kind of became the spokesman. Raven started, kind of picking guys that hadn't been used properly and brought them into like a misfit group where we were the band that nobody wanted.
Right.
And since we were the guys that, you had Kidman, you had Saturn, and myself, who were like we were the enforcers of the group. Lodi, who was an unknown sign guy. Sick Boy, who was a talent out of a power plant that nobody knew what to do with yet. So he kind of got the Sick Boy gimmick, which was great for him. They brought Van Hammer back, who could be a big muscle guy. And then you brought Ron Reeson, who was a giant oddity, And so the group was a different hodgepodge of guys, but all of them could work. And all of them had a point where they just weren't part of the corporate image.
Right.
And so we all worked. It worked well with us. And I was such a part of the corporate image with the American Males Report, it would only make sense that I, because everything had become downtrodden on that, you could say, to go ahead and join forces with what was against the establishment. And that's what was so good with the Flock. We were so anti-social, anti-establishment, anti-everything. The people sat in the audience. We were the only group that did that. And we were hated so much. I mean, if you could only have sat there in the crowd a couple times, little crazy out there sometimes. But that's real heat. That's people really hating you. And when you got that, you got people by, you got a lot of balls.
Right.
You got a lot of short and curlies. They're going wherever you tell them to go. And that's real psychology. When you got them really hating you, it's great.
And that's essentially what, like you said, that's what puts asses in the seats. And I remember watching you guys in the flock, and like you'd said, you've been paired up. You were jumping guys like DDP, who was becoming a rising star in WCW. Chris Benoit, like Ravens matches with Benoit. I remember those were like, you guys even jumped like the NWO at several occasions. Like you guys were like really hot in the promotion.
Oh, big time, man. That was the thing. We had legitimate heat. People really hated us. And that was what was so cool about it. Is if you garner that emotion from the fans, and that's a deep emotion to be hated. I remember they had us shoot this one appearance as a flock at a indoor arena football game in Tampa, because we were getting ready to go there to do a nitro. And we walked out to do the coin toss. And here's all these football players, and they're all in their pads, and the referees and stuff. And the crowd is legitimately booing us so bad it's almost deafening in the arena. And the football players are going, man, these guys are booing you. Do you like that? And we were sitting there with smiles on our faces going, we love this. They're going, you like to be hated? And this is going on while we're supposed to be doing the coin toss. We're like, yeah, we love it. Dude, it's great. And they were astounded by the fact that we love to be hated. Because they didn't understand psychology. We said, dude, this is just what sells tickets.
That's right.
Just put asses in seats, dude. Every 18 inches, if you're hated and people want to see you get beat up, as we're flipping the coin, this is what we're talking about with them. It was incredible. And to be out there in general public, being announced as who we were, and to get that reaction and something away from wrestling was just even more tremendous to show how the effort we put into really being hated. I mean, it's a job to be hated.
Absolutely. Like I said, like the Flock were one of my favorite factions in WCW, and like you had mentioned, like you guys like sat in the audience, and none of the other stables ever did that, and you guys were different. I mean, compared to you, like the Flock and the NWO were exact polar opposites.
Man, the NWO were all the top stars in the sense they were all trying to be cool together. And you had too many egos in that group. You knew that they weren't always, that faction wasn't going to work out. If it had stayed like, just say, Paul, Nash, Hogan, maybe Kenny coming in, and Rude, and X-Pac, if it had stayed that small of a clique.
Right.
And stayed just WWF guys that were coming in, maybe Big Boss Man, something like that. Instead of them going out and trying to recruit guys, it would have stayed more of a stable entity of more credibility. Instead, then you had the individual Black and White, you had the individual Wolfpack with that Sting and Lex, the Giant, and then it became so watered down that it just went, the people lost all steam other than the music and T-shirts. They had to recreate it so many times. And every time they recreated it, it lost more of its juice.
It did.
It's funny when you had NWO 2000, you had Goldberg, you had Scott Steiner, you had Bad Boy, and all these guys, and it was just Jeff Jarrett, all this stuff. There was no credibility to it anymore. And that's the thing that happened with Raven trying to redo the Flock and stuff in TNA and some other places. The one place it worked, and one place it was credible, was when we did it at WCW.
Right.
And we did it where we had the national exposure with it. We were really being healed. We were really being hated. And we didn't water it down with adding every guy that everybody knew already. We were recruiting guys. I was the only guy that didn't just show up and join in the group, actually. Everybody else just kind of showed up and was there. I was the only guy, in a sense, you want to put it this way, fought my way into it. I was fighting against Raven. Eventually was finding my way to be accepted by him. If that makes the psychological sense of it.
That was that. No.
And that's what happened after the World War III match we had. When he carried me, and they basically
And that was a great thing about the Flock, like as opposed to the NWO, like they were trying to recruit every Tom, Dick, and Vincent, and with the Flock, it was just the core group of you guys, and it didn't, you guys weren't out to try and like recruit every single WCW superstar.
Exactly. That was the thing. That's what hurt the NWO. The NWO had too many egos in it from the start. So if you can imagine putting guys in there, and every one of them, this is what hurt the NWO. All of them had in their contracts they had creative control. So whether they would lose, whether they would do matches, whether they would just shoot promos, whatever they wanted to do, they basically were trying to run the show. And instead of being a group that was trying to be hated, they were trying to be cool. They wanted to be the cool guys. They wanted to be bad guys, but cool. Because everybody bought their merchandise. Everybody thought they were cool. They were big, sexy. They were, the bad guy, all that kind of stuff. And in Hollywood, and that just doesn't. It doesn't regurgitate hate. It just goes, okay, we're a cash cow, we're making money, we do what we want to do.
Right.
And that's what they got. Instead of being this mean group that came in attacking everybody, trying to destroy WCW, they were trying to, just instead of trying to destroy everybody, they were trying to recruit everybody. Because it's almost like we can't beat you, so we'll recruit you. Our mindset in the Flock was that we're just going to beat everybody up. We didn't care who it was.
Right.
That's what being a real heel is. You may lose every match, but if you beat somebody up, that's what you gain your steam. You don't gain steam from winning every match.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No. I mean. Yeah. Like I said, like that. Like that was great. That was one of the things that was great about the Flock. They were just beating up everybody, and they didn't care who it was, like heels, baby faces, and you had mentioned egos a couple of minutes ago. Do you have any like backstage experiences with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash? Because it's pretty well documented that they were kind of prima donnas backstage, that they were sometimes hard to deal with.
Well, I mean, honestly, I didn't really hang out with them that much. I mean, I saw them, I spoke to them, but I didn't really have a whole lot of dealings with them. I mean, the guys that I were friends with legitimately were Sting, Lex, Bagwell, Alex Wright, Sick Boy, Raven, Brad Armstrong, but I never really hung with those guys. I mean, I played golf with Lex and Sting and all the time, and Marcus, and even Rex Steiner played golf with us, and Larry Zbyszko, but I never played golf or went out and partied and hung out with Hall and Nash and those guys. We're completely different groups, so I never really became buddy with them.
Right.
I didn't care to, because I saw they did stuff where we'd be there all day. You'd have to get in a Nitro at 2 o'clock, and they never board up for what we're doing for the 3-hour live Nitro we're doing. They would get there at 5 and go, no, we're not doing the match. We're not doing that match. We're just going to promo here, promo, and they would have to redo the entire board, have to rewrite the entire show, and it happened every week. These guys are doing this, so I really didn't want to be a part of them.
Right.
I didn't want to hang with them. So my whole thing was, I'm hanging with the guys I've been friends with before they came here, and I'm not going to change because they are here.
Right.
So, I mean, I really can't sit back and throw out a whole bunch of juicy stories about anything, because I really didn't want to be with them. And if they were cool guys, I was with my friends. I didn't care about being with the cool guys.
Now, you had mentioned that you had left WCW in 1999. What did you like? What did you think of Nash as when he took the book?
I mean, Nash did good with the book. I mean, he tried to work younger guys in. I mean, he wasn't all about himself. I mean, he put himself up. He was the first one to beat Goldberg. He did in a semi-creative way, but it still wasn't the right way to do it, I don't think. I know Bill, he didn't want to keep that shit going much longer because he was getting tired of it. But, I mean, but he only held the belt for a week, because the next week they did the finger poke of doom and all that gaga that really started to be the downfall of it, because Nash, because
Right.
instead of doing stuff to make, to build more into long-term feuds and establish things. Everything he was doing was just to make people laugh. He's a funny guy. He really is a good guy, but he just didn't have a handle for what it meant to be a booker. He was very creative, but only for himself. So it's hard to see him as a legit booker. Because I really didn't work under him that long. I didn't do a lot of the stuff. Most of the stuff that entailed me was either through Terry Taylor or Dusty Rhodes or Art Anderson or some of the other guys. Kevin Sullivan, who ran the book also, were part of the booking committee. But, I never had Kevin call me in the office and say, this is what I want you to do. No. It would always be, okay, this is what we're going to have you do.
Right.
I would either agree to it, disagree to it, give my 50 cents in there, and, my 2 cents worth of input and see what can be done better. That's the stuff we always tried to do.
Right. It seemed like you would. It seemed like you would left. You'd left WCW in 1999 when it was a good time to leave, because after that, from a fan perspective, like, it really went downhill. You had all these. It seemed like there was, you had like the West Texas Rednecks, and you had the Latino World Order and the Filthy Animals, and there were just too many.
Oh, they had all the talent in the world there, because when I started in '95, I was number 47 under guaranteed contract.
Right.
When I left in 2000, it was actually beginning of 2000 was when I was done. There were 193 people, including referees, Nitro girls, every person in the book that could write under a contract, and half of them didn't even wrestle.
Jesus.
There was Lenny Popo, Randy Savage's brother, was actually in the contract for 2 years. He was making like $75 grand a year. Didn't wrestle once.
Oh my God.
It was still getting a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Jesus.
And so that's where, that's where it became known as the ATM machine, because what Eric Bischoff did was sign everybody and anybody that he could in their contract so they couldn't go work for Vince. And anybody wouldn't use them. He'd pay them, but he wouldn't use them. So there was money going out. These guys he was paying money to wasn't doing anything to bring money in. So when you go from, in the span of 5 years, from 47, we pretty much quadruple the number of people that are under contract. It's like, wow, there's definitely way too much money going out, so money coming in. So yeah, when I left there with the ECW, they were just getting on TV, so it was perfect time to be with them. It was a great time to leave WCW, because they were just really, really, they were, everything they were doing, they were rehashing. They were retrying to do, they were retrying to make everything. And when you're doing that, you have no creativity.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, like you said, it was a good time to get into to the ECW, and so when WCW eventually folded, and when ECW eventually folded, when WWE basically bought them both out, you had mentioned in our first interview that the main reason why you didn't want to go to the WWE was because they had this goofy character lined up. Like, do you want to tell the listeners like what that was all about?
Not really, because there really wasn't one specific character that was kind of locked up. It's just they really didn't have anything but, acting in a sense for me to do. I wanted to be a wrestler kind of like I was, like in the ECW. Paul Heyman gave me the clap gimmick, which was kind of poking fun at the American males with the hand clap over our head. He goes, this is the gimmick I want to give you, but he goes, you're wrestling, and everything else that you do gives you credibility. What WWE wanted to do was give me this character, and I mean, kind of almost to not in the same sense of personality, but almost what they did with Brodus Clay.
Right.
They took this huge monster of a guy and made him into the Funkasaurus. He took whatever credibility he had and threw it out the window. Because they made him this whole match. He had to do all this funky stuff, all this, and that's not, and I told them, I said, I don't want to be something I'm not.
Right.
And what WWE does is when they can take a guy like Billy Gunn, you start off as a smoking gun. Pretty good, cool cowboy tag team, which was hit back when he was doing it. Turn him into Mr. Ass with the Generation X, turned him into Chuck Loves Billy and Billy Loves Chuck, where they're pushing the homophobic line, and do that to that guy. I sat back and went, there's no way I'm going to go somewhere where they want me to be something I'm not. I wasn't going to go there as a wrestler and be a golfer who's being a wrestler. I'm not going to have them change me to be something I'm not.
Right.
And some of the ideas they ran past me, all it was being something I'm not. I said, guys, I want to be a wrestler. And they're like, well, we don't want a wrestler. Like, well, then you don't want me. I don't want you. I don't want to do something. It's just, I'm not going to be happy doing it. And there are guys who went there, like Booker T went there, really didn't change his character. Changed it a little bit with his five-time thing. RVD went there, never really changed his character. Taz went there, he didn't try to change his character, but he couldn't wrestle because he was too short. But all of a sudden he could talk. So he became one of the best commentators
Yes.
ever had. Chris Kamar went there, they didn't change him. Eddie Guerrero went there, he just played off of what he already was, an established Latino character with his Latino heat. It was something he already was. If you ever see some of the other guys who are success stories in the WWE are basically products of themselves multiplied. The Rock, when he first tried to be Rocky Maivia and be this smiling, cheery, gay, rippy high.
That was terrible.
Fans would put him out early. He finally became the eyebrow-raising Brahma Bull to go along with his tattoo he had. All of a sudden he found his niche. Steve Austin, when he first went there, was the ringmaster, the $1 million title. That got over like a fart in church. When he finally decided to become Stone Cold 316, Austin 316, it was basically came off the hip. I mean, interview he did with Jake the Snake when he, basically beat Jake in whatever the King of the Ring tournament was, or it was, I can't remember. But he beat Jake and said, "You can fly something your job 316." Well, Austin 316 just said, "I whooped your ass." All of a sudden, boom, Austin was born. The Texas trials think everything about him being from Texas, which is basically what he was. He was a redneck from Texas, and that's Steve. If you know anywhere outside the ring, what he was in Stone Cold was really Steve. And when guys get to be themselves and just magnify it, they're success stories. When you see guys who are just constantly playing character after character after character, Vince uses them up, gets rid of them. He'll bring them back. And a different character, use them up, get rid of them. And that's basically what Vince does. He'll recycle you until he has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
So it's just unfortunate because there's so many talented guys there, and Vince has the pick of what he wants now. If you look at the TNA guys, every one of the guys in their roster is basically who they are. They're just been extensions of themselves. James Storms is really a Tennessee redneck, wears cowboy hats all the time. He's just been an extension of himself. Austin Aries has been the same persona from day one when he was in Ring of Honor. All these guys with that bandana has not changed from day one when he was in ECW, going all the way through WWE, all the way into TNA now. Not changed a lick. Still the same thing. And that's why he's had a successful, long career. When they want you to come in and play a character instead of finding out who you are and making a character based off of who you are, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Like, I mean, like, you bring up a lot of points, like a lot of great points, but there were some instances in pro wrestling, like from being a fan watching that, like, where a character was really over, like when Dusty Rhodes went to the WWF in the early '90s, and he was the American Dream wearing the polka dots, and he had Sapphire. They basically did that to bury him, but it was really over with the fans.
Well, he got it over because he stayed the same personality.
Right.
He just wore the polka dots. Goldust, his son Dustin, was supposed to be the same thing. But what Dustin did, Dustin embraced it and said, "Hey, I'll make this thing work. You can try to make it not. I'm going to make it work. You can't control everything I do in the ring." And they were making him do all this crazy stuff with Luna. I mean, every crazy thing you can think of in the book he was doing. But he got it over because he took pride in what he was doing.
Right.
He made it work. He had the ability to make it work. Shane Helms
Yeah.
So he could be a superhero. And he liked that. And that was for him because he was part of that role. If I had maybe something like that I'd liked, maybe that might have worked. But it all depends on the person. If you find something of the person, like again, I'm not a golfer, I'm not a dentist, I'm not Isaac Yankum. When they took Glenn Jacobs and made him, Isaac Yankum, didn't get over him. He was, when he became Kane, he could wrestle under the mask and be Kane from Long Shadow and establish that became something. But Mark Calloway became the Undertaker, so it's going to be Mark Callis or the Punisher, whatever he was in CWA and then in WCW. When he became the Undertaker, he took that role over and became the Dead Man. Nobody else, they weren't going to make that. You can't make the Dead Man goofy.
No.
You can't make Kane, which is evil, goofy.
They're kind of doing that now, though.
But if a fan sees something goofy, they're going to go, it's either him or it's a role he's playing.
Another thing I didn't really understand was like when they brought in DDP, like his persona in WCW was super over, as the People's Champion, but then when they brought him to the WWE, they had him in that ridiculous stalker gimmick with with the Undertaker's wife. I don't understand why they do that.
Well, again, it was something that Vince, they didn't have a whole lot. The guys that came in then, Page, Canyon, they put a tag team titles on them, but they had those guys getting beaten up every week by the acolytes. Ron Simmons and Bradshaw were beating up Canyon, and they were all used to working very easy, but they used to actually legitimately beat them guys up because they didn't want them to be around. But they were sticking with it. And then when we became Positive Page with white teeth, to be a motivational speaker. That's when you see where a guy's career is going nowhere for the long term.
Taking a nosedive.
When he's constantly changing his character. If they would have brought Page in doing the same thing he was doing in WCW, it would have stayed. He could have been a tough guy. They probably would have believed in him as a tough guy. And the fans would have still bought it. But the other wrestlers just didn't want to be able to have to put Page over automatically. If you look at Booker T, when Booker T first came in, he came in as a House of Fire. And the first time him and The Rock were in the ring together, The Rock turned around and looked at him and went, "Who are you?"
Yeah, I remember
The
that.
Rock said that to him on that live Raw. Booker T's stock went straight down. He had to start building his way back up. And the only way he could do it was he was been that character so long already that he could rebuild it by being himself. That makes sense. So that's one of the same reasons Sting didn't want to go there. Sting was like, "Dude, I'm not going to go there and have them remove my face paint and go, no, we don't want you to wear your face paint. We want you to go out there like this now. We want you to do this now." Where they were making him change his character, which is what they wanted him to do, a few changes in him that he didn't want to do. And he didn't want to go out there and back up to The Rock, and The Rock turn and look at him and go, "Ooh, who's the clown show in the ring with me tonight?" All of a sudden he's known as a clown. All it would take was one thing from one of the over guys to say to bury you, and you would not be able to call out no matter who you were.
That's right. Yeah.
But Bagwell, the first time he came in there, they told him on that one Raw where him and Booker T out of Tacoma, Washington, were the main event for the WCW heavyweight title. They told Marcus not to wear his top hat, not to do his dance. And he said, "That's my character. I need to." He said, "No, we don't want you to do that. We want you to walk out there, straight to the ring, get in the ring, get your induction. Booker come out, he'll do his thing, get in the ring, get his induction, go see a match." He went out there, grabbed his top hat, did it anyway. When he got to the back, his top hat had been smashed. And he would call into the office and said, "Well, this is what I want you to do for the next 3 weeks. You're going down to our training facility to learn how to wrestle.
Oh my God.
Where we want you to wrestle."
Jesus.
And a few months after that, he got fired. So, I mean, you either going to do it their way, or they're going to get rid of you, or they're going to embarrass you.
So what did you think of the like getting onto the topic of the invasion angle, like you would mention, like DDP and all, like RVD, all these guys coming into the WWF? Like, what did you think of the invasion angle?
It was something that they did really. They didn't have. I mean, you could watch it, and even as a casual fan, you could tell that they were interested in making it like a true invasion. Because if it was, it wouldn't have been just you wouldn't have drawn over Stephanie and Shane like you did. Trying to invade their own family's company. You would have had these guys hitting and missing in parking lots, hitting and missing in arenas, hitting and missing in matches, and doing it in house shows, and doing it everywhere. Or when like the NWO did it, when they invaded us in WCW, they jumped people in the back. The one scene at the Nitro when we did it in Orlando at the Universal Studios, when they jumped us in the back, and that ambulance come get us and stuff like that. They made it look like a real invasion. It wasn't everything was just being done on camera, in front of an audience. There's stuff being done behind the scenes. They would have sent cameras, or had somebody with cell phone video or something goofy. Like I said, this is going on, at house shows. This is what these guys are doing. If you would have made it look like a real invasion of guys trying to take your company over, instead of your 10 security guys, you're going to line up in a row, and the security guys are going to get beat up. And you're going to get to your main guys, and your main guys are going to kick their guys' butts, and it's still called an invasion. And your main guys are transferring over to the invading guy's side. The NWO got over it first because their one big hot shot flip over was Hogan. And when that happened, when Hulk Hogan, the ultimate good guy, went bad,
Right.
everybody went, wow. And it stayed with that click for a short period of time, for an extended period of time, enough to establish them. When WCW came in, they had enough guys that could have been doing 2 shows, still been doing a Nitro of some sort, still been doing some other show with it, but have them really conversely fighting against each other. It would have more credibility. Instead, they just did it within one pay-per-view, and pretty much the invasion was over.
Yeah, I think
They could have extended it, give it some legs, and give it some life, instead of giving a pay-per-view an invasion name. It took a little while for them to find Bill sold out.
I think another issue was correct me if I'm wrong, but like this seems to be like a general consensus that one of the reasons why the invasion angle wasn't as hot as it was is because it lacked the star power. Like, it didn't have guys like Scott Steiner and Bill Goldberg because their contracts were still locked up with AOL. Am I right on that? Or
those guys, exactly. You didn't have the star power. That's true. I didn't think of that because I really wasn't with them. I really wasn't focusing in all the time. Those guys were getting the option where either buy out your contract at like 70 cents on the dollar. So you're making $1 million a year. You're signed for 2 years. We'll pay you $1.4 million. Get out of your contract. You can go work for WWF right now. Or you can sit at home and get paid, your $1 million a year.
right.
And not do anything. And not do anything on USA soil, basically. You go to Japan or so if you want, you go anywhere else, do whatever you want to do. You can do that. And, some guys took their buyouts. Some guys did. Some guys stayed at home and collected their money. And took time at home. And was then at home for a change. So, that depended on the old person thing. They couldn't get enough guys to do the buyouts. Because none of the guys knew what the security was really going to be with Vince taking over. Nobody knew where the security was going to be. The security wasn't a guaranteed paycheck. It was still coming from AOL and Time Warner. So you stuck with that.
Right.
With Vince, what security did you have? A word promise? A contract that was basically you could fight in, kind of you were an independent contractor. You could claim you for it if you wanted to, but you could still fire you whenever you wanted to. The Russian contract, if people know about them, you basically sign away all your rights and give them over to them. You have very few, except for any rights you were able to fight for. A lot of guys in lot of guys didn't want to get that up. So that was the nature of the beast. You had to give up first, give up security, and go into something you didn't know what was going to be there for you. And so that's what happened with that whole back and forth. And when you're trying to do an invasion angle, if you don't have your top stars doing it, again, you're right, it's not going to have the pencil needs to have. And again, I really wasn't focusing on it. I wasn't worried about it because I wasn't there, I wasn't doing it. I was casually watching it. It's like I do now. I casually watch some of the shows to see what, entertains me, what really makes me believe what they're doing, or get a reaction out of it. But I don't watch it really as a fan. I know too much of it. And I'll watch it to see really what they're doing with my friends and how successful my friends are being.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of similarities between the invasion angle way back in 2001 to the current product of the WWE and TNA, especially TNA. This Aces and Eights storyline. It's exactly the same. There's no star power.
Well, they're not good with the Aces and Eights. They really weren't worried about having like star power. They were trying to build up because they'd done all these things with Immortal, which was another NWO thing.
Yeah.
And they tried to do the Four Horsemen thing with Fortune.
Yeah.
They tried to do all these little rehash things, and instead of rehashing like the invasion angle with star power, you had this band of motorcycle things, some kind of Son of Anarchy play off of. We had these guys that nobody knew who they were. They were trying to invade, and that's, in my eyes, that was good because it was a group of guys. At first, nobody had a clue who any of these guys were. I mean, I knew who some of them were because of my dealings with Rob and Dan and some of the guys that were down there. Sometimes I was going down there to visit. But to me, watching it, I was going, nobody knows. The casual fan doesn't know who these guys are. And that brings more intrigue into it. So people want to watch it more and really get involved in what's going on with it. And so that really, and again, it reaches at your wonderment of what's going on. It reaches at the fans' point of, okay, I'm intrigued. Not just this is another story, this is something we don't know who these guys are. And so what? It's Luke Gallows, it's Mike Knox, these guys that everyone's going, well, there's guys at WWF, they're all WWF wannabes. Well, the fact is, WWF hired them for a reason for a long time ago. They're big guys. They weren't used properly, and so Vince got rid of them.
Right.
So what's a wrestling fan's mindset now? You can't make it in WWE, you're no good. Well, believe me, WWE isn't all that it's made cracked up to be. There are people that are there that show up and don't work shows, that show up at TV and don't do this. And that's why their SmackDown and their Raw and even their main event are the same core group of guys working every show. If you watch that, Sheamus works everything. Cena works everything. Orton works everything. Punk works everything. Ryback works everything. And you got all these talented guys that will maybe work one match here, one match there. The girls, one match here, one match there. This one match here, one match. It's all a hodgepodge. So you got too many guys working. And you got 3 shows, and you're using the same core group of guys in every show. So you're really not building anybody. You're seeing the same replays. SmackDown is just nothing but a Raw replay. Every match, after a match, there's a 5-minute segment of what happened on Raw on Monday.
That's true.
And I haven't even seen the main event show on ION yet. So, I mean, some of this stuff, you just sit back and go, they're just doing the same old on every show. You got the same matches on every show. But you got all this great talent that you're not using. So people go, if they're not using it, it must not be any good. Well, if they weren't any good, why would WWE hire them in the first place?
That's true. No, that's a good point.
So they had to be good. The fact they can't find anything to do with them, so they get rid of them. So the guys go look for work somewhere else. They get jobs. They're given a great thing to do, and instead of being judged on what they're doing now, they're judged on what wasn't done with them in the past.
It's funny you mentioned.
It's a shame of wrestling fans right now. Wrestling fans are so spoiled they think is right, what they think is real, what they think is wrestling, when they're pretty much drinking the Kool-Aid, what sports entertainment is, and not wrestling. They think that Muppets and clowns and all these silly skits are what wrestling entertainment is supposed to be, instead of like UFC, where it's supposed to be like real fighting. You know, that's what wrestling used to be.
Mm-hmm.
You hated somebody, you liked somebody. You want to see one guy win, you want to see one guy lose. Now then, you go in there and you just want to buy merchandise, you want to be seen on TV, you want to watch these matches, and everything is, you know, if you cheer right, you cheer wrong, it's all done, it's all TV. There's no realism in it anymore. Because then you know all the guys in WWE, they're all friends. They all like each other, they're all nice, they all do autograph sessions, they all do be a hero, be a star, whatever that thing is about anti-bullying. What's a heel? He's a bully. You know, I can see them doing certain things to be right, but you got to do it with the right people.
It's funny.
I don't know. There's a lot of big fans and butts and I'm throwing around, but you know, it still might be a little bit jump by it, but still takes good in the end. What I'm saying.
No, it really does. I mean, I think, you know, I think to a certain degree, the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, I think, kind of spoiled, you know, like you said, like wrestling fans are spoiled in 2013, especially like older fans like myself, because a lot of fans, they want to go back to 1997 and 1998, and you know, I honestly don't think there's ever going to be another Attitude Era.
The only problem with any of that is you just can't go back.
That's right.
You know, and that's the shame of it all. You can't go back. You know, you can try to recreate some of it, but unfortunately, all the wrestlers, unless they've been out on the independents, really honing, perfecting their craft, which there are no independents, there are no territories to do that in now. You can have your developmental territories, but all those developmental things are going to do is teach you to wrestle a certain way. And it's not going to teach you to be yourself. And so instead of just having cookie-cutter looks, you can cookie-cutter wrestlers. And every wrestling match you ever watch at WWE, they're all the same thing. And it's unfortunate. And it's just the way they're being taught. It's just the way they want them to be taught. There's no creativity being taught. You know, they got great minds and what they're doing, but they're not making them work the way they should be working. And unfortunately, that's why wrestling used to draw 10 million people on a Monday. It's now only drawing about 3.
Right.
You know, and UFC actually is drawing more with their ratings and doing well with their shows because people want to see the real fight now, what they're perceiving as real combat. They want to see that. You know, they realize wrestling is a show. They've been told that. They've been shut down by merchandise because we're a show. And you can't take that back now. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Right. That's right.
No.
Do you think that
Unfortunate.
Do you think that WWE could, and TNA, and even some of the smaller promotions could benefit from bringing back some of the old school aspects of like in-ring psychology?
Well, I think that's what TNA is actually trying to do. You know, but again, right now, the fans aren't giving it, and even Ring of Honor, you know, they're trying to do it, but they're just not exposed enough on TV with a national audience. But, you know, some of these areas are trying to do that. Some of the guys, specifically like CM Punk, tries to put that realism back into it. Some of the guys do. Some of the guys are just brainwashed in a sense, or just their mind works in one way now. It's what they've been taught. It's what they're being, you know, it's what they're teaching. And it's just, you know, this the mode that wrestling is now. It's not going to go back, but you can still take it back. It's going to take a little bit longer to do it, and you're going to have to suffer through times when maybe you only draw 5,000-7,000 people in audiences instead of 200,000, you know, or not 200,000, but, you know, 25,000. You only draw half of what you can draw
Right.
until you reestablish it. You're going to have to suffer a little bit to re-educate the people, but until you get a whole new generation of people that are
You had mentioned shit like Sheamus is one of the guys that's being constantly rotated. It's funny because I'm pretty sure that in 2012 Sheamus wrestled the highest number of matches for the WWE. I think it was over 250 matches. I think he wrestled.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I wouldn't know stats like that, but I wouldn't doubt it because he's on pretty much everything. I mean, me and Marcus were pretty much, because we were the only babyface tag team in '95 in WCW and even the '96. Before we split up, we were the only babyface tag team that there was. So we were on every show, every Nitro, every Saturday Night TV taping, everything, because we were the only ones. We had no choice. Excuse me. So you couldn't really put anybody else in there. So, and it was fun. It was good. It was great exposure, great experience. We had fun doing it. Got to go everywhere. So got to be on every tour. So it was good that way. But then again, it does work out. It does oversaturate you a little bit. That finally, by the time Marcus got to turn heel, people were begging for one of us or both of us to be heel because they'd seen it so much they hated us.
Now staying on the topic of you and Marcus as a tag team, you guys must have some wacky or really funny wrestling stories from when you two were a tag team. Because you had mentioned earlier, you were two young, good-looking guys, so you guys must have got in a little bit of trouble.
Well, we got in a little bit of trouble. Well, you got to realize also we were traveling with Lex and Sting, and they were older guys with families. And so, I mean, the only time me and Marcus would get in trouble was if we had days off or we were in Atlanta and we were going to Buckhead or we were going to, some of the other clubs and stuff like that around Atlanta. We'd have off time. But we were traveling with two older cats who were established. They loved to play golf. They wanted to get their workouts in.
Right.
And, imbibe when you did, but it was more the hotel and chilling at the hotel. You really weren't we weren't exposed to guys that were being idiots. We were exposed to guys that were already credible and like their status. They didn't want to see themselves, with bad press clippings or whatever. That unfortunately came to some of them. But that's when all the stability they had kind of fell out of place. I'm not going to go into personal stuff, but yeah, I mean, when we all worked so first together, we were traveling, we were having a great time, we were doing stupid stuff, but it wasn't like it was overtaking us.
Right.
Because we were so busy. We had our fun, but we had it under a umbrella because we also knew that, hey, dude, we're going out and play golf with Lex and Sting and Kurt Hennig and all these guys and everything else, and these are guys, we were with the upper echelon guys, even though we weren't upper echelon. So we kept it, certain things contained until we were away from them, then we could let off a little more steam.
Well, that's.
So there really isn't like certain stories we can go. We run around going crazy with girls, or doing this, going crazy with drugs, or going crazy with parties, going crazy with any of this other stuff because it really wasn't there. It was pretty much it was there, but it was fine tuned because we had other goals in mind too.
Absolutely, and but that's from the sounds of it, it sounds like it worked out for you and Marcus because a lot. Obviously, as well as anybody being actually in the business that so many guys get into a lot of shit like on their off time. So for you guys to be paired up with Sting and Luger, like you said, established guys, older guys, that it probably saved your careers.
Well, also back then, we also look at it. We didn't have all the social media like there is nowadays. We didn't have your TMZ.
Yeah.
You didn't have your Twitter, where if you did something and if you got caught out, people didn't have cell phones with video cams on them, or they take pictures of you doing stupid stuff and have them out instantly, like they do now. So, it's almost like we got away with more stuff than we should have. So that kind of works in our favor. But then you don't have all the great memories of it,
Right.
The perverse memories of it. Let's use that word, right? Perverse. So, I mean, it was again, it was a different time. I guarantee you, if Twitter was around back in 97, 98, when wrestling really hit big, wrestling would never even fights, more, people were losing jobs left and right because of what somebody would take a picture of and
Right.
put out on Twitter in a heartbeat for undercovers. I remember I got in trouble one time because Fire, one of the Nitro girls, she's a good friend of mine, Terry. We were sitting in a restaurant, kind of sitting on the same side of the table, and it felt kind of cozy, but we weren't.
Right.
We were sitting there talking, and we're having a couple drinks, and some of the guys saw us here, so they started spreading rumors that we were doing stuff. And we weren't doing anything. But then Kimberly, it got back to Bischoff somehow. Bischoff wanted to shoot out Kimberly that one of her Nitro girls were being flirtatious or whatever, and in public with one of the wrestlers.
Right.
And then Eric came and chewed me out.
Jesus.
Then Kimberly came and chewed Terry out. And Kimberly came and chewed me out. And me and Terry are sitting there going, we didn't do anything. And they were like, well, it doesn't matter if you did it. It doesn't matter what what you're conveying.
The public perception,
back,
basically.
I'm sitting back thinking now, if this is on Twitter, dude, it'd be out there all over the world that we were doing something.
Right.
Whether we were doing it or not. And me and Terry looked at each other and were like, wow, we should be doing something if we're being blamed for it. We're not even getting the benefits of it. We're just getting the blame.
Wow. Yeah, and that's...
So, that's how it was back then. A lot of stuff was more conjecture or talk than it was actuality. So.
Well, Scotty, thank you so much for being on the show today. Like I said at the top of the show, I sincerely appreciate you being on the show. This was a fantastic talk. So how can wrestling fans follow you and get in touch with you?
Well, if they want to follow me, they can follow me on Twitter. And you put it up before, Richard. It's real Scotty Riggs. Or I'm on Facebook. Scotty Riggs is the only ones. They pretty much throughout the years come through and clean up most of the fake wrestlers on Facebook. And most of your wrestlers on Twitter, there's not too many fake wannabe Scotty Riggs on there. So don't have to worry about me being fake, because I'm the real one. I'm the only one that I've seen so far. And you can contact me through those two ways. I don't have a .com. I don't do that. So there's no internet thing for me. But those are the best two ways: Twitter and Facebook.
Excellent. Yeah, like Scotty said, fans, you can follow him on Twitter at real Scotty Riggs, and you can find him on Facebook. Give Scotty a follow. From what you've heard in the last 90 minutes, just a great wrestling mind, and a great passion for the business. Even after all these years.
I've been gabbing for 90 minutes.
Time flies. Time certainly flies. I know. I just.
Well, I've been having fun, and I guarantee I didn't make sense out of any of it.
So yeah, like I said.
Wow, that guy got hit there with too many chairs.
Well, like I said, wrestling fans, and like Scotty said, you can follow him on Twitter at Real Scotty Riggs. Find him on Facebook. Definitely give him a follow and give him a shout out on Facebook, because like I said, just a fantastic wrestling mind, and a real passion for the business. So, Scotty, like I said, thank you again for being on the show. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Richard. My pleasure to be on your show. Hopefully we get a chance to do it again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Scotty. And as always, wrestling fans, you can check out the official website of Kayfabe Kickout. That's www.kayfabekickout.com. The latest professional wrestling news from the WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, and so many other promotions. We have a ton of professional wrestling articles, audio shows, print interviews, and a hell of a lot more. So www.kayfabekickout.com. You can follow us on Facebook. Check out our official Facebook page at facebook.com/kayfabekickout. You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/kayfabe_kickout. And we are now on YouTube. We have an official YouTube channel as well. So that's youtube.com/kayfabekickout. And you can check out the official partners of KayfabeKickout.com, Ring Rust Radio with host Donald Wood, which can be heard on Blog Talk Radio, Revamped Wrestling, which is an exclusive YouTube channel on professional wrestling, Double Six Belts, NWA Atlantic, Extreme Canadian Championship Wrestling, and a hell of a lot more. So just go to the official website of Kayfabe Kickout and click official partners of KayfabeKickout.com to check out the many fantastic partners that sponsor the show.